There I go. There I go. Tell me you guys were able to hear me that whole time. Because I was feeling like y'all wasn't able to hear me. Was y'all able to hear me? I was shouting all of y'all out and everything. Whatever. Let me go. So I wanted to show you guys these articles again. I know I brought it up, but for anybody else, so you know what I'm talking about, how some of this shit was going down, okay? You weren't able to hear me all that time? Damn, that's crazy. Okay, I just added myself. All right, so like I was saying, there are a bunch of forgotten and you guys are so patient. I love y'all so much. Y'all are so patient. Um, so I was saying that I named this the Say Their Names, the Forgotten Ones, particularly because we search for our ancestors all the time, but there's a number of people that are really kind of like more concerned with how Indian we are than how whatever they are at all. So that means that there's some ancestors whose names aren't getting brought up and they're just kind of obscure and it's just a different type of grandma killing. These are the granny strangulations where they hide their bodies and no one ever speaks their names again, like it never even happened, different type of granny killing. But these people have had some horrible things happen to them. No one is claiming them. No one is touching on their names. And they're in these petitions, so people can't say that there's no information. You can't find anything. You have to find things, and they may be in the most obscure places. Always look for it's not cute, but always it's not really funny, but I have to sometimes you gotta laugh to keep from crying. But you need to know that a lot of things are going to be in the miscellaneous files. They're gonna be miscellaneous. A lot of stuff on the Indian. But I'm gonna show this record because you got all of these people pretending, and I want to read this piece done by this reporter from the LA Times regarding the fake white Indian tribes. These are the tribes that no Pan-African has ever questioned at all. They've never asked them for any proof. They've never asked them for any documentation. They may make jokes that allude to they know that they're not the real so-called Native Americans, but they will indicate that a lot of other fraudulent people, right, are the Native Americans, right? And it couldn't possibly be us, right? Even though we know for a fact that there is a difference between a Native American and an American Indian, right? So let me just show this article. This really interesting, spicy meatball. I want to know, I think I should go, let me go back. I'm going to actually go back. I'm going to come to the current one, but I'm going to go back because this guy from Los Angeles has been hot on their damn trail. So I'm going to go back to a few of the older articles. Okay, now I'm going to read it from this page. Let me do a screen share. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. They call us fake, but they don't never say anything to the fake people that's getting jammed up. They ain't kicking in our door trying to do nothing to me. Why they call me fake, right? But look at this shit right here. This is the type of time they on. This type of time they on. Okay. So this is courtesy of Indians.com. This is the website. And I'm just going to read this article, Business National section. It's infuriating. Fake Cherokee business land millions of dollars in contracts. The Los Angeles Times. Now, this is June 26th of 2019. So the Los Angeles Times on Wednesday published an explosive account of how businesses owned by fake Cherokee entrepreneurs have landed more than $300 million in local, state, and federal contracts by exploiting lax rules and oversight. The biggest offenders by far are people who belong to the Northern Cherokee Nation of the old Louisiana Territory. The Times investigation found these businesses have received $269.2 million in government contracts since 2000, even though the group is not considered legitimate. I have nothing to say to you, Billy Boyce Jr., the owner of the company that is considered a minority contractor in Missouri, told the Times when asked about his family's alleged Indian ancestry, which they have used over 2 generations to land work. Get off my property. This is what your boy Billy Boyce Jr. says. These are the people that none of any of the people that we have ever debated. And it was stupid to even debate over our heritage, especially when we are arguing with people that don't know who their damn great grandmother is, and they can tell you 50,000 years about ancient Kemet. It's really dumb to even be having those debates. But you know, when you first come into this information, you feel like it's completely necessary to defend your stance and your position, right? Which is totally okay. But at this point right now, these niggas still don't know who they are when the last few years you've been proving who you are left and right. Right? So what is really to go through? But they never once questioned any of these people. This is the money that's been going. When Martin Luther King said, I'm coming to get the check, these are the goddamn checks he was talking about. And these checks ain't been coming to us since 1968. Right? And I'll keep going back there because you know that is the Indian Civil Rights Act. Rights of Indians. Okay? We know that. So now this is my problem here. This is who's been getting this money since 1968. You want to know what? They started recognizing, they gave I need to find this letter. And it's from the BIA, and it was a letter addressed to a family member, and it was in regards to coming in and checking on your property. This is after the last Indian Relocation Act of 1956. And after that, you had to check on your property at least once a year. So people were not coming back from Chicago, from wherever, LA, from New York. They were not coming back from DC and Baltimore. They were not going back down into the South, into where their properties were. They weren't going back in to check on their land, to check on what happened and what they were entitled to. So they neglected that. It's kind of like abandoned lands all over again, right? So now here are your people that have been squatting and sitting on these things. So all the ones that didn't get into the Homestead Act and they didn't get their pieces of land, then they now had a new opportunity to do it to the so-called black man right now because he didn't know he had everything, right? Didn't know he owns the land. So now you have these people that have been getting all these contracts. So when they had the Fair Housing Act, what people think that that's familiar with, that is the Indian Civil Rights Act. You have single subject matter in the United States. And what single subject matter is, you can only have a law or an act about one specific thing and all the things that follow thereof. And that one specific thing was American Indians and everything pertaining to the situation regarding what that bill and that act was enacted for. Period. Dot. When you look at those faces, you see all those chocolatey faces. You do not see a whole bunch of pilgrims in that room. You see Lyndon B. Johnson, maybe a couple of senators, but you see all of these Negro-looking people. People that look like our uncles and our grandfathers and our aunties and whatnot. Not these people that they paint as being way more Indian than we can ever be, right? So now it's infuriating. State Representative Rocky Miller, who is a citizen of the federally recognized Cherokee Nation, told the Times they're enriching themselves based on non-existent recognition. Now, see, this is the pot calling the kettle black. Okay? You got this representative that is chastising these people that they agreed to give this goddamn money to. No one has protested any of this. Now, how come the brother that lives 2 blocks away from the projects, that done made it out of high school, got himself some sort of education or trade, has big dreams and ambitions, and him and his brother, they have avoided all types of death and imminent danger in the streets, and decide to take this idea and go into business for themselves and provide themselves the opportunity at the American dream? These brothers will never get a loan at the bank, because you have fake Indians, these white people that were going in to get these loans, get these guaranteed loans under the premise of them being more Indian than you. And this is under the Indian Civil Rights Act, that all of these benefits and things are supposed to be coming to the American Indian. Native Americans have their benefits. They have what they have. But in the law was written what the American Indian is supposed to have. And you can't turn an American Indian into a Native American involuntarily. There is a difference. The Native American has federally regulated activities. The American Indian has federally protected activities. With that being said, the Indian is not supposed to be discriminated against any federal activity. So I think we have a problem here. So this is the part where we need to intervene. This is why we are putting on the No Grandma Killers tour, so we can make sure that the people have the information on the tangible things that they need to attack these people on, based off of the things that protect our posterity, and force these people to acknowledge that the American Indian is here. You gotta acknowledge it. See whether it's subtle or not. We have legitimate beefs. We're not going off half-cocked, oh, because the white man is doing this, the white man. It is a bunch of people involved. It's a bunch of players involved, and it's not all just the white man. I need people to understand that. I need people to understand that. These are the people that's in the way. These the chess pieces that got to get off the board, not these little scrubs and these groups and stuff like that want to sit there and argue over grandma swore they got some shit on you and ain't got nothing on their own. Ain't that some shit? They not thinking about nothing like this. They not looking to save Africa. They not looking to make sure that they people that they attached to get some respect put on their name. They got their own work to do and their own shit ahead of them. I wish them the best, but I need them to stay out the way. We got some shit to take care of. They need to stay out the way. That ain't no lie. And I mean that in the most tender way that you can probably take it, coming from me, given within the decibels that I probably use expressing that. But I mean that in the most fondest term of endearment. Get out the way. Get out the way. So now this says the Times traces much of the problem to lax oversight, and Missouri businesses claiming minority status don't have to do much to show they are owned by someone who is a citizen of a federally recognized tribe or a legitimate Indian nation. I had a business. I was denied Section 187, which was a guaranteed loan. I had a business. I was denied everything because I was not federally recognized. Got a lot of these people on record too, telling me no, shutting me down, refusing to communicate with me via letter. It was somebody's signature, and I got a lot of running around, a lot of red tape. So yeah, I am an egregious woman. I am an aggrieved woman, rightfully so. Rightfully so. I took a lot of lumps. I ain't even gonna lie. It wasn't even just my son. I got my own personal hell and story and trauma that I deal with, that I gotta make them put some respect on my name too. I had a really high paying job, and you talk about the most indirect slavery abuse on a female, and I will never really pull that card. But I'm telling you, they motherfuckers was so mad at me in the way that I thought, and the way that I was innovative, and there was nothing that they can do about it. The organization, I've always been really good at that. Really good at communicating. You stay consistent with people, you'd be surprised who's rolling with you, right? You'd be surprised who's rolling with you. And it's not always going to be people that look like you. I've been able to make some wonderful acquaintances that never had a goddamn problem telling the truth, especially when I was being sexually harassed, right? So do you know what it's like to have to go home every day looking at your family, and they're the only reason why you're getting up, going to this place every single day, right? Where you're overworked, they steal your work, just all types of things. And then they're wicked. It wasn't necessarily my locker that they put a noose in, but they did try to feed me maggots at a time. So I got my own trauma and shit that I went through. And it was hard not to take that home. And I would go and cry in my room before I tell my children when they asked me what kind of day I had. And I had to put a lie together, right? Because I couldn't tell them that I was being racially discriminated at work. I couldn't tell them that I was being sexually harassed at work. I couldn't tell them that I got written up for protecting a woman who would come to work with her eye looking like a potato. She got a whole chicken wing up under there. Sending her to a shelter, telling her where shelter is. She called her husband from the shelter. Husband called the wife and said, your friend in HR, the woman in HR is supposed to mind her business. This is my wife. And you want to know what? He was right. Well, I got my own little personal house. But one thing for sure, two things for certain. There's certain bullies and certain kind of hells that I'm not going to deal with. There's some hells that I'm going to work through. There's some hells that I'm absolutely going to get over. Some I'm going to turn into heaven, and some I'm going to raise motherfucking hell about. How about that? And that's just really kind of what it is. But you see this type of shit? These are the people that's stealing. I'm not really concerned, and they're no different than the HEMOCs. They just on a grand scale, but you got niggas like HEMOC that work for these goddamn people, right? And they gaining intel and they granny trafficking and they stealing the shit, because this is like sending, like when your white homeboy co-worker asks you to go get a bag of weed. He can't go in the trap house, but you welcome to go in the trap house. So he sends you in there, right? And then you give him the whatever, and he busts you off a little piece. You go about your way, and this nigga walk away with the mots. Generally how it happens. This is the same shit. This is the equivalent of the same thing. Because these men can't walk in there. No pilgrim man is going to walk in there and be able to get those contracts. And it tells you that they're pretending. So, it gets better. It gets better. Hold on. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. It just gets better. It gets better. These are the type of things. Now, this is the more recent one. I want y'all to take a good look at this shit right here. These is the motherfuckers hiding behind them superhero masks on the Facebook, on the internet, that be talking all this real live gangster junk. It be these people right here. Millions of dollars in Alabama. You know how poor people are in Alabama? And you got these people right here pretending to be Beulah May Jenkins. Now, this man back here, he looks like his great-great-great-great-grandfather was probably Heinz Schlossenflaver. Something like that. How did they become Billy Ray Johnson, Billy Bob Jenkins, Willie Earl, Ernestine, Essie, Beulah? Thank you, Wayne Storm. Y'all okay? How they get in your people's neighborhoods and you forgot that your granddaddy owned this land? He got these acres over here in the back. Really, everything you see is yours, but these people, you'll drive by them and they'll look at you like, nigga, you better not step foot on your own shit. Martin Luther King said, I'm coming to get the check. They killed his ass, and these white people said, oh, no, you won't, sucker. We gonna get the check. They got the checks. Not even recognized. They got the checks. And these people want to see all of this information, how Indian we is. And these niggas got the checks. We got the ancestry, the land connections, the complexion and everything to be the Indians these niggas is pretending to be. Right? Let me go back because I gotta read that one. He just spiced it up. You gotta hear some of this stuff that these people are guilty of. This is by Paul Pringle and Adam Elmarek. Okay, and they wrote this spicy meatball at 5:54, December 31st, 2019. This caveat was published, right? This fucking masterpiece here. Okay, so companies set up by members of self-described and state-recognized Creek Indian tribe in Alabama have received more than $240 million in federal minority business contracts, despite a determination by the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs that there is no credible evidence the group has Native American ancestry, a Los Angeles Times investigation found. Okay? Thank you, Chadaya. Federal contracts worth an additional $273 million have gone to two companies run by a member of a different Native American group in Alabama, with no federal recognition as a tribe. The ability of company owners with questionable Native American identity to obtain more than $500 million in taxpayer funded minority business contracts reflects a nationwide failure by agencies overseeing programs set up decades ago to help socially and economically disadvantaged minority groups, including the Alabama outlays. The Times has found more than $800 million in federal contracts awarded to companies whose owners made unsubstantiated claims to be Native American, although the total is almost certainly higher. The contracts were for construction, computing, and other projects in 27 states, including California. Federally recognized Native American tribes and other racial ethnic minorities are the losers, right? The Times analysis of the Small Business Administration contracts found Native American companies are often overrepresented compared with minority groups, but the disparity is particularly stark in Alabama, where Native Americans comprise less than 1% of the state's population, but Native American businesses were awarded more than $2 billion through the SBA's minority program since 2007. By comparison, while African Americans make up 26% of the state's population, Black businesses in Alabama received about $827 million in minority business contracts, the records show. Black business owners in Alabama say they struggle to compete against Native American companies and suspect many are owned by whites. You hear how crazy that shit sounds? Black business owners in Alabama say the struggle to compete against Native American companies and suspect many are owned by whites. This is why I want to go into these Alabama towns, because at the point where the so-called Black business owners think that those are the Native Americans, you know there's a goddamn problem. They don't even recall. Have you heard you had Indian in your family? Well, where did the Indian go? Where did it go? California and 5 other states have moved to strip minority status from companies examined in the Times' earlier reports on the contracting programs. In addition, the U.S. Department of Transportation has called for a nationwide review of Native American contractors to ensure their owners are members of recognized tribes. Still shutting us out. Still giving the check away while they're taking the check away from these people. You see this? Pay attention. In addition, the U.S. Department of Transportation has called for a nationwide review of Native American contractors to ensure the owners are members of recognized tribes, and the Small Business Administration's Inspector General has begun an audit of SBA certifications of Native American contractors. Each year, the federal government reserves 5% of its multi-billion-dollar contracting budget for businesses owned by eligible minorities, including U.S. citizens who are Asian, Black, Latino, or Native American. But the program's process for vetting applicants is seriously flawed. The Times investigation showed one major problem is that the SBA considers business owners to be legitimate Native Americans if they belong to a tribe recognized by either federal government or a state. Many Native Americans have long opposed allowing states to recognize tribes, arguing that the federal government should make the decision because states often fail to properly screen groups. Alabama has recognized 9 tribes, but only one. The Powhatan Band of Creek Indians is recognized by Bureau of Indian Affairs, which is part of the U.S. Interior Department. Members of federally recognized tribes in the other states have criticized the claims of the other 8, including the Machis and the Creek Indian tribe, the Machis Lower Creek Indian tribe, and the Echota Cherokee tribe. So back to the argument that I had with the said Native American. They also indicated that Jay Nighthawk he's a part of the Echota Cherokee tribe. They haven't accused him of any foul play, but he took it upon himself to make sure that he put that interjection in there. I don't know if it's to make me biased. And, he's probably the only one of these people, whether he's fake or not, which I don't certainly think he is. But he's the only one that's mentioned us. So you can't accuse him of any foul play just because this is happening. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. So if anybody else has any other information on that, please let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's have some conversations about that. I don't want to just jump the gun because they use that information against anybody that they think that that shit goes against our narrative, and it still supports the fact that they feel that they are, in fact, the real people, whatever that means. So among the beneficiary, so now listen to this. They found a loophole. Brenda Golden, an attorney and citizen of the Muskogee Creek Nation in Oklahoma, a federally recognized tribe, said of the Alabama groups, they're profiting off the misery of our ancestors. Among the beneficiaries of the SBA's rule in Alabama are Aetos Systems Incorporated and its joint venture, Aerie Aerospace. They won contracts worth a total of $273 million, the Times analysis found. The owner of both companies, Donna Coleman, qualified for federal minority business program by claiming membership in the Achota Cherokee tribe, according to SBA records. At the request of the Times, Jean Norris, the lead genealogist at Oklahoma-based Cherokee Heritage Center, examined records for Coleman's family and concluded she has no documentable Cherokee ancestors. The records showed her ancestors were white, he said. So again, this shows how they even use the fact that it said the ancestors were white as if it didn't say that some of them were black, Negro colored, white, and whatever, right? So look at, even though they're telling the truth, they still have their subliminal wording in here that fucks up and triggers some shit in my mind. It's not like these are people that we can still trust, but there's some people that aren't total scumbags. They still got a little scumminess in them, but they're not total assholes and stuff like that, right? Not total grandma killers. Maybe grandma muggers, but not killers per se. But they hang out with grandma killers, still fucked up nonetheless. The Achota tribe, listen to this. Listen to this. This is supposed to be their story, this enchanting fucking story that they told back, I don't know, in the 70s or something. The Achota tribe says their ancestors fled to avoid the infamous Trail of Tears, the 19th century forced removal of American Indians to what is today Oklahoma, and then blended in with white communities, according to the Alabama Indian Affairs Commission. Isn't that funny? When they got here, they blended the Indians with the Negroes, Turks, and Moors because they were dark. And now, during this time, this particular tribe hid amongst white people to avoid the Trail of Tears. Okay, whatever. You get what I'm talking about. In this case, the Machis, the SBA began certifying the group's companies in 2005 because Alabama had formally recognized it as a tribe in 1985. I was in the 5th grade when these guys got recognized. Share this video, like this video, piss off somebody that's trying to tell you who your grandmother is. Share this shit, like the shit, share it, share it, share it, share it. Buy your tickets to the No Grandma Killer Tour. Tickets are still on sale. SBA officials would not say if they were aware that the Bureau of Indian Affairs has concluded in 1987 there was no credible evidence that the Machis' ancestors were Native American. In a statement, the SBA said the Machis continue to qualify for minority contracts under its regulations because of its state recognition in Alabama. Nancy Conley, the vice chief of the Machis, said the group was unfairly denied federal recognition. You need to look how corrupt federal recognition is. Now, this is where the cook tells the goddamn truth, right? You need to look how corrupt federal recognition is, how demonic it is, Conley said in a brief phone interview before hanging up. She didn't respond to email questions from the Times. Conley serves on the Alabama Indian Affairs Commission, which decides which tribes receive state recognition. So it was unfair how the feds do it, but you got these motherfuckers that are sitting there telling the state how to get it done. So that means that they get in the boot from the feds. But if we went to them and with our ancestry from Alabama and had all pertinent documents and historical data and tried to get state recognition, and we got to go see these people, you mean to tell me these are people that would have been discriminating against us? You see this shit? That's why they all got the nerve. They all got the nerve. This is how telling this particular piece is. So now they working inside the Alabama Indian Affairs Commission. So that means if a bunch of us went down there, these are the people that would discriminate against us as the federal BIA discriminates against them. Which we'd be none the wiser. Some of our people would probably be doing backflips trying to appease them and then actually give these mother suckers your real Indian information, and then they swap out who they've been pretending to be you. Woo! You know what this, I'm telling you, this shit like Pootie Tang. You know how they undermined Pootie Tang. The ladies loved him, and everybody else thought that he was kind of slow and kind of stupid and everything. But you see what that white man did? That white man, they had to put Pootie Tang everywhere. They talk shit about Pootie Tang. They mad that the ladies love Pootie Tang, but they had to create a whole bunch of fake Pootie Tangs. That's how they do. That's how they did our shit. That's how they did our shit. They was always attracted to what we got going on. They wanted it for themselves. And they showed these other people how to imitate Pootie Tang. Hiring actors and actresses. Alabama has seen its Native American population surge, part of a cultural phenomenon that began in the 1960s as hundreds of groups across the country, some with legitimate Native American ancestry, some not, emerged to claim indigenous roots. In some cases, whites genuinely believe that they have Native American heritage based on family law. So their grandmother told them they had Cherokee, and it's quite all right. But our grandmother tell us that, and we the goddamn liars, right? You see how these people do us? This shows everybody's hand. It shows how the Pan-Africans believe. It debunks the shit. It shows how we really feel, because it's telling us ain't none of these people our friend, and ain't none of these agencies looking to really do a thing, not under the premise of us being Native Americans, not with this federal recognition thing going on. It's kind of like a credit reference, right? In order for you to be recognized, you have to have someone that'll vouch for you. So if the United States was let off, or didn't keep their commitment with any business that they did with Switzerland, when the Moors did the recognition of the United States, that's like a co-signer kind of. So whatever tribute they're supposed to pay you, if they don't pay you, then they got to pay us. And if we got to pay you, they really going to pay. So these are the things that they have. So now that we've been dealing with all of these people and stuff, this is why we are forced to get into a political position, which is totally not a bad thing, because now we've had so many disagreements with so many of these different people that have hidden behind these Native American populations. Who do you think will recognize a bunch of bands of us if we left it up to these same people that we arguing with? Are you crazy? Is that what y'all niggas looking for? Like, what kind of in-game prophecy do a lot of these people see? I need to know which one of the people that, which ones are talking about in-game prophecies, how this is supposed to all unfold and unravel, and who to watch and who the real killer is and all this other stuff and what's going on. Like, how many are really actively involved? Because there's somebody that you can, pick up a call and see if you can get a couple favors done. Like, who you rubbing elbows with? Who's taking you serious? Where your constituents at? Is you in the hood? Is you in the neighborhoods where you got 400 people over here that could sign up, 500 people over here in this city that could sign up? You can get 50 people over here in this town, and maybe 130 over there, right? From state to state, rolling dolo from state to state. I'm pretty sure it's the Indian in Montana that has been misclassified. Maybe he don't know it yet. Maybe we need to go to them places that they make us think we ain't supposed to be. Maybe we need to be in North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. Maybe we need to be in those places. Maybe it's some shit there that they don't want us to see. Not a lot of sick people there. Got to be something all right going on over there. Not a lot of sick people coming out those places. Let me finish this article. So from 1970 to 1980, the number of self-identified Native Americans in Alabama tripled from about 2,400 to 7,600, according to 19 census U.S. Census figures. So how many after the Civil Rights Movement do you think is in like this group of statistical numbers of people that were self-identifying as American Indian? Do you think Coretta Scott King's family was identifying as American Indian at this point? What about Dr. John Henry Clark's? Do you think that this is where that was the point where they were identifying as American Indian? A 1976 letter from a Creek Indian in Oklahoma to the Montgomery Advertiser newspaper condemned Alabama's newly self-discovered creeks as plastic show-and-tell whites who attire themselves in outlandish costumes and parade before the public. It is truly sad, said that Alabamians are being fooled by these imitation Indians. They said this back in 1976. 1976. Wasn't Cabrini Green still up in 1976? When did they destroy Cabrini Green projects? You know, we even heard about that, or even out here. What could have happened to the people in that neighborhood if they had access to these contracts, where they was able to open up daycares and be able to be self-sufficient and open up businesses and stuff like that? What would have became of these people that had a real shot, where the American dream wasn't pulled from underneath them back then in the 70s? What if Ashada Shakur knew that we was American Indians? Do y'all think she knew? Do y'all think the Black Panthers knew? Did they hide it? Were the Black Panthers really, you know, were they really like these gatekeepers that we dealing with now? Were they here to take everybody's mind off of grandpa and grandma? Was they Operation Cornbread? Was they Operation Cornbread? Granny trafficking? By the early 1980s, self-described tribes were clamoring for state recognition. These people said that they was hiding in a cave. You got to just see some of these stories these people were talking about, man. In 1830s, the Machis fled white mobs and found refuge in a cold, damp cave. The group's leaders claimed, citing oral tradition, as the tale goes, the Machis eventually emerged from their hiding place and blended into the backcountry towns by pretending to be white, keeping their identities a secret. But the federal researchers who studied the Machis' application found numerous problems with their Creek Indian origin claims, according to the Bureau of Indian Affairs' final report published in 1987. The cave story was dubious, rooted in local folklore about Indians and outlaws, the report said. Many of the Machis' ancestors, including those of current chief, were living in other parts of Alabama and neighboring Georgia around the time the tribe allegedly was hiding in a cave. And you goddamn got that right. That is, in fact, true. Two records that documented Machis' ancestor as Indian had been altered. The federal researchers concluded the documents originally said they were white. The report doesn't say when the records were changed. So this is what I mean about them having all of the jobs, them being in all of the agencies, them being in all of the offices. No one is there to safeguard the Indians' property. Everyone left their posts and they went on to be a watchdog on somebody else, some other oppressor's post, right? Thank you, legendary Top Cat. No. So this is all the type of shit that's been going down. And we got people stealing right from under our nose. And they're working in these places and they have access to fucking alter documents to indicate that they're Indian. If they have documents, access to alter documents to indicate that they're Indian, they have access to documents to indicate we're not. It's the type of time they're on. It's the type of time they're on. They lied and said that they was in a cave. These motherfuckers went for it. We tell them about Walter Pleck and say we was misclassified. These niggas say you lying. Check it out, y'all. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. So that's, that's what's going on these days. This is the type of time that these people are on. What's going on in chat? How y'all doing, beloveds? But this is the type of things that we've been dealing with. So it's not always, it's not always so black and white kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Then you kind of got those gray areas and shit like that where crazy meets crazier somewhere in the fucking middle, and it affects us in a way that nobody really pays attention to, but in a way that people may also blame somebody else. These are the unusual suspects. And these suckers is just as guilty as a nigga that steal my mama's purse or fucking take from my goddamn kids. It's the same thing. Meanwhile, disturbing the rights of Indians. Disturbing the rights of Indians. That they don't even know exists because the Indian been hiding in the shadows, lurking behind the black man and everybody else. Everybody else but themselves. Everybody else but themselves. So what we have to do is completely political. And it has to be in such a way that it's completely organized, definitely with clean hands, because they are going to come. They're going to come. See how they do me? You times that by 10 to the max. Okay. What's up, Chad? Hi, Ancient One. None of them are there to speak for us. None of them are there to hear our concerns. None of them, nobody, there is no way Maxine Waters is listening to any of our grievances and concerned with doing anything about it. The Black Caucus, we cannot stand under that umbrella. No one that is a victim of Walter Plecker needs to stand under any goddamn umbrella that says Black, African American, anything other than American Indian. No one that has been a victim of Leander Perez and any of these other people that have had access to change the records that change them from white to Indian and change us from Indian to Black, where it looks like a goddamn number 13. So they can steal our shit, then tell us we ain't got nothing, and then be even more colder than a polar bear's toenails when you're going back to Africa. Like you really fucking belong there. Send you on a dead end everywhere they turn. I'm tired of it. I ain't playing no games with none of these people. None of them. I'm ready for all of it. Ready for all of it. Good, bad, and indifferent. I have my premonitions already. I already know how this shit gonna shake out. This is why I use these other people for target practice. This little punk shit that they be doing. You think I'll give it to these niggas? You should see what a choke slam I do to an oppressor. Woo, flawless. I'm 6 feet tall and that. Flawless. Who else ready? I can't be the only one by myself. I know I ain't by myself. I had a good one. I'm not really concerned, but I don't want to leave my grandkids in no type of disarray. It's not fair. I want the way I enjoy being my children's mother, I want them to enjoy being their children's parent too. I enjoy being their mom. Got kind of will once my son hit that 16, 17, 18. And then it's, oh shit, the cops is really after mine. It's like, I never really, I won't say I'm naive. I knew that happened, but you couldn't catch mine on the corner. You couldn't catch him doing certain shit that you think people that would have those kind of problems do. Oh no, there's no discrimination on that. And you just gotta have a complexion for that. They could be minding their goddamn business, doing everything right. And that one day, that one moment, that officer, whoever the fuck, want to come and fuck up his life, want to fuck up his good credit and all that, want to fuck up his freedom. It's the same thing. And that's why I'm going to go right back into those records so I can show you that this shit was about the felony game. You talk about prison reform. What about prison reform? That's what slavery back then. You think that's what they was mentioning before? There was money in that. Even when they was dead, there was money in that. Even during their death, they still was collecting, cashing out $400 and $500 for a dead slave. Somebody want to recoup that. What was they going to do with a dead slave? Well, I wouldn't be surprised. You seen Tyson Fury licking Wilder's blood, right? That was kind of strange. A little $50. But let me go back to this page. Thank you, Sahu. Let me go back to this page. So we're going to say some names of some people who history like to fucking forget. Let me get this together for y'all. All right, here we go. You know, so I'm going to go back here. This is a really, really good site. You'll never run out of references. It's something that you go back to. See, one thing what happens is I notice people do with their sources. Once they get a source that gives them that information on that one specific ancestor that they're looking for, they kind of just get that and that be the end of that. You got to hold on to it. You got to bookmark and catalog it to where you got the sources from, because you may have to always go back for a reference. So this site is a place for a multitude of things. It's not going to be just useful for one thing. This site is like also part of your prerequisites. After you've changed, you've checked everything and you hit a brick wall, you go into these obscure areas and you take your mind off of the thing that's very well, just kind of taking you off focus so that you can get a different type of connection. If you can't connect with the ancestors, sometimes you could just connect with the land. Pick up a book on everything about that county and see what's going on inside that county, and it might just give you some of the answers and stuff that you're looking for, just out of that type of situation. Okay, so look, this is kidnapped. Let's talk about these people. Let's talk about the people that were kidnapped. Now, this is Delaware, 1791. Warner Mifflin, feeling both sorry and ashamed for his country, asked the legislature to end slavery on Christian and moral grounds. He opposed the necessity of your recommending to the convention of the inserting a clause in the Constitution, declaring that no more slaves shall be born in this state. Mifflin firmly believes that without such clause, it is my judgment that the Constitution will be disgraced as long as it remains. Without this, it will be repugnant to the pretended spirit of the revolution. So this man, even in this petition, it paints a picture that it is clear that they knew what they were doing, even though in the Constitution they had abolished slavery. The reason why it didn't end is because people couldn't gain control of their straw, right? So they put their bodies in jail. You had the peonage and people being convicted of a felony. So that has a lot to do with why people were enslaved. Besides the welfare to work, you're looking like a vagabond and you couldn't, necessarily take care of your family or provide. So that goes back to that they just turned us loose. we'll get to that too. Once Coach and I start our morning show, we got some really nice little spicy caveats going over the actual slave narratives and from their own voice. We picked out a few of them, particularly the ones that talked about them being Indian. The famous Josie Brown coming into the Aboriginal community. Everybody knows who Josie Brown is. She was a Choctaw out of Texas. And we're going to talk about the kidnapping clubs. I'm also going to talk a little bit about that in here, where they would kidnap the free people and bring them down into the slave territory. For instance, Solomon Northup, everybody's familiar with him as 12 Years a Slave. He is actually Falls River Indian. I found his father and his grandmother in the Falls River Indians. He lived in Saratoga. He was part of the kidnap club. Well, he wasn't part. He was a victim of the kidnap club. A lot of people don't know that Rikers Island, named after John and Richard Rikers, and they were city clerks in New Amsterdam, New York City, very long time ago. They were part of the kidnapping club, where they would take our people that were free in the Northern Territories and, of course, essentially send them down into those territories where slavery did exist. So sometimes they would even make people pay ransom and shit like that. So you're talking about families having to come up with $500. That's like astronomical. You can't expect that shit to happen. And definitely not in a timely fashion then, where it took however long it took just to get a telegram or a piece of mail or something like that. You know, it wasn't nothing quick, you know. Like, hey, I got little Billy, send me $1 million by Bitcoin now, or he gets it. It's nothing like that. It was a little different, certainly, I'm sure, back then. So you have someone here that is talking about it being repugnant to the pretended spirit of the revolution, to say nothing about Christianity. Mifflin also asked the body to devise some more effectual means to prevent the salutary laws already made from being trampled upon and evaded. In particular, he notes that in some parts of the state, freeborn and others entitled to their liberty by law have been thus carried away. So you'd already taken them and kidnapped them. He's making a petition and a grievance for the people that were already kidnapped, that were already free. But if you stop it all together, then we can prevent that from happening. So shout out to Warner Mifflin for feeling like people deserve their freedom, even for the ones he didn't know. This is somebody doing the right thing like Spike Lee. So shout out to Warner Mifflin. I hope your descendants are saying your name. This is also Delaware. This is in Newcastle. At least 57 petitioners seek the strengthening and enforcement of acts regulating the transportation of slaves over state lines, the exportation of slaves to other parts of the South, and the enslavement of free blacks. This is your human trafficking right here. And I bet you $1 to a donut, the same motherfuckers that's guilty now is descendants of these same goddamn slave catchers. Delaware 1816. 20 citizens of Delaware expressed concern about the increasing number of kidnappings of free people of color who were arrested from their families and carried into perpetual bondage. They assert that this iniquitous traffic is both known and deployed by many of the members of legislature themselves, but bounds can never be set to its progress till some law be granted whose penalty shall exceed the hope of advantage from this commerce. The further note that the grand jury of Baltimore County are, among others, petitioners to the legislature of Maryland, the law of similar effect with that for which we petition. The petitioners therefore submit our memorial and petition to the legislature, expecting its success from their justice and hoping it from their humanity. So they basically praying to these legislators, right? Basically praying. That's pretty much what, that's not pretty much. That is exactly what a petition is. It's a public prayer. So let's go to some other. This is a lot going on in Delaware, but it tells you that these people were taken. So if you, and keep in mind, you have, you notice that they keep mentioning Baltimore County. So there would be some jurisdiction of Baltimore County that goes into what we now know to be Delaware territory, right? So those imaginary borders and stuff like that. But as long as they were able to get these people below these so-called alleged territorial borders and boundaries and lines, they were able to successfully kidnap people and put them in bondage. It was going to be very hard for someone to prove that they were a free man from New York who, such as Solomon Northup did. He didn't have a liberal like the person that Brad Pitt played in the book. You really wouldn't have had the greatest chances of being successful. It goes those allies, right? And you got to be sure that it was a bunch of niggas on that damn plantation. Like, look at this nigga. He think he better than the rest of us. This nigga said he was a free man, right? You know there was people laughing at, ha, ha, ha. He said he was a free man. He said his daddy was a free man, too. Can you imagine the conversation of them motherfuckers, him having to bust a couple heads over there? Him having to bust a couple heads on the damn plantation because they laughing at him when he tell them he free. Well, none of them help him escape because you was free. I was free. You ain't no free nigga. You a slave just like the rest of us. Can you imagine the way they was probably talking? These are all about people expressing their concerns. 349 citizens. Delaware, 1818. 349 citizens of Delaware expressed concerns about the increasing number of kidnappings of free people of color who are wrested from their families and carried into perpetual bondage. They assert that this iniquitous traffic, these are the same people that filed the same complaint as the other people did regarding this same matter. So this is how the people of Delaware got the shit to stop. There you go, 30 citizens wrested from the families and carried off into perpetual bondage. So this was a serious thing that was going on during this time period, just here in this particular thing. So if you have somewhere in between 1815 and let's say 1825 where you're missing one of your relatives, right? And you want to look around those times, especially because those are like, especially during war, different specific engagements and skirmishes and shit like that. You definitely want to check for the men being where different, the Battle of Bunker Hill, the Battle of Fort Smith, the Battle of here. You don't picture in your mind that your grandfather is on that census because he happened to be out there on military duty for X amount of time, which the census came around while he was over there. And now the war is over there. They kicked the paper ass. Now he back in Virginia. He's on the census over there. So you'll think that that's not your grandfather in Iowa. You're not going to check the record, not realizing that's the same man from Virginia that married your grandma. But you don't picture him over there. See, this is how you know niggas think that everybody was a goddamn slave, because they don't think that they was able to move around and do anything. You've got to be kidding me. They would walk back and forth. I found... I couldn't figure out for the life of me what these numbers meant on this document in antiquity that I found. And when I happened, since one day I just opened up Google Earth and I put it in and I found out it's a route. And this was a route that my family would be able to take to get to Gainesville, Florida. From where they were in Alabama, it was a direct route to go to Gainesville, Florida in, I think, 6 days' time. Google told me something. Walking on foot. And I only selected that just to see what it would be like, 200 years ago for them to try and get around. And even walking 150 miles wasn't really much. They would do that to go find work. They had all sorts of vagabond laws. So the men were constantly moving around, especially if they couldn't find work locally or have a plantation to work for locally. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to start understanding that this was a system of commerce. So they didn't have any child protective or anything. When you look at these, like in the chancery courts and stuff like that, for instance, some of the grandmothers, they fought and said after they changed the law and said that they can no longer enslave American Indians, they never went back and rewrote that they was Indians, the people that they blacked out. You see what I'm saying? So the slavery still for the American Indians still perpetuated and exacerbated, in fact, at that point, because now you had to be able to go into these chancery court proceedings and indicate and document who was exactly your parent, right? This is such the case of a grandmother, Jane Gibson, right? This is the same thing. Her children had to perpetually keep fighting for the same thing in order to not be enslaved. So this is some serious shit. This is serious right here. Now this is all in Delaware. Not all of them, but these first two pages of claims here look like they. Let's see. Here's one in Tennessee. Let's see what they got going on in Tennessee. 85 petitioners defend John Farmer. Now that's a name that of a grandfather one of y'all might be missing off the whip, right? John Farmer, who we believe to be an honest, upright, and good citizen, and who has been deprived of the privileges of a free citizen. They report that Farmer, in the heat of an argument, stated that Thomas Lanier had sold a parcel of free Negroes. Lanier sued, and Farmer later gave Lanier a piece of writing importing that what he had was the effects of passion and that he was sorry for it. The petitioners were not pretending to say that his assertions against Lanier were correct, do, however, fully believe that it was the general opinion at the time that Lanier was concerned in selling of said free Negroes. They therefore humbly pray that John Farmer may be restored to all the privileges of citizenship, which we think him in justice entitled to. So here you got Virginia. Sarah Green, 1784, Fairfax, and her two children were promised their freedom by their master, Reverend Charles Green, who died before he could execute his promise. The law at the time did not permit emancipation by will. Before he died, he contracted a promise from his wife, also named Sarah Green, that she would be free of the will, that she would free the slaves. The widow married Dr. William Savage before freeing the slaves. However, Savage carried her to Ireland and left her while he returned to Virginia. Sarah Green and her children, now numbering 4, were allowed to enjoy their liberty for many years until a relative of Dr. Savage named Rice kidnapped 2 of her children, carried them to Carolina, and is now attempting to carry off your petitioner and her 2 other children. The petitioner humbly hopes that your honorable house will pass an act to confirm to herself and children that freedom, which it was the wish and intention of their master that they should enjoy, and to which Dr. Savage had himself assented as part of his marriage contract. Okay, that was kind of a lot of candy for $1, huh? A lot of candy for $1. A group of Quakers, this is Virginia, 1802. A group of Quakers present their petition to the legislature to protest the suffering of free blacks whose undoubted rights are being violated with impunity because enforcement of the law that protects such rights is not applied in enough vigor to discourage perpetrators. They specifically represent that the children have been emancipated by will but placed under white guardianship. Is their guardianship again, which was required to maintain freedom. It wasn't just signing up for a free colored registry, okay? And not every state had those. So now they have to have the guardianship during their minority or carried out of state and sold to slaves, and adults in the enjoyment of their freedom are kidnapped and taken away and enslaved. The petitioners pray that the laws be revised to halt these practices. So it was like damned if they do and damned if they don't. This is out of Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, 1835. You got Joseph H. Jenkins states that he is a free person of color, illegally confined in a Washington County jail, charged with being a runaway slave for the second time. On the first occasion, Jenkins was able to produce his freedom papers and released by order of the court. In this instance, he asserts that his freedom papers were taken from him. Jenkins asked for a writ of habeas corpus. Now, this is something that has always been denied the Negro, right? That is right. That is right. This is an interesting one, too. This is also District of Columbia, 1847. They're going to call it Washington County, but it's the District of Columbia, which is, you know what it is. John E. Ricard states that 4 or 5 years ago, a Negro woman, Louisa Mason, placed her 4-month-old son, Richard, under his care. Louisa has since died, and the justices of the peace for the orphans court bound Richard as an apprentice to a card to learn the art, trade, and mastery of a cook. So, this is very important. So, she has essentially assigned this male, John Eva Card, to be her son's master, to learn the art, trade, and mystery of a cook. Right? So some people actually sue their so-called masters. Hey, I signed up and took this job because you told me you was going to teach me how to be a blacksmith. You didn't teach me how to be a blacksmith, then I don't want to work for you no more. I'll go work for Mr. Jones. And they would actually fight to be able to be let out of their contracts because this man wasted their time. They got all this fucking work out of him, and he never had any intention on teaching them how to be a blacksmith. So this site is really good. I'm going to keep running through it. I'll be back and forth every now and then. But I'm going to beat this page up. We're going to go through a lot of things. I'm going to cover a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff to kind of show you guys just so, give you a better perspective because I see people just think, well, I can't find them no more. That don't mean they dead. They might have moved to Arkansas. I'm just saying. But let me see something. I also want to show y'all something too. Let me do this. Now, you have to be able to find aliases. Maybe your grandmother's name was Ann and they called her Pinky. Some records say Pinky, some records say Ann, some records say Margaret Ann, some records say Margaret or Peggy. Look at the family members and the collateral lines as well. Collateral lines are very, very important, especially when you run into blocks. Always look at who the neighbors are. When you see them in the 1790, the 1800, 1810, all the way up until 1860 or 70, and they're in the same spot. And they're next to other free colored people, and they're next to other people that have been in the same spot, no matter what they've changed the names to, what districts they numbered them in to be. People say, it's the same spot, and they just have different names, the way they do the voting and polling districts and what have you. And that's what actually, when towns become incorporated, when they become unincorporated, or they remain unincorporated, they ain't really making too much noise, but people know they exist, right? There's still going to be some sort of documentation. Now, where the documentation is housed, now that may be a little bit of a wild goose chase. People don't know a lot of deed records, even for Tennessee and Virginia. You may have to actually go to Kentucky to get some of your records. You weren't born in Kentucky, but you may have to go to Kentucky to get some of your records. Perhaps, especially some kind of deeds and stuff like that, and specific records that you need to have authenticated. They may come from Kentucky. So, who got their tickets to the No Grandma Killers tour? Y'all did? What y'all talking about down there in the chat? What's going on? I'm sorry, I just was rambling. Oh, yes, they was. Yes, indeed. Let's show this comment. That is absolutely true. So now they moved to, I had family as well that moved to Arkansas prior to the Trail of Tears. It didn't end up really great for everybody. It ended up somewhat disastrous for a couple of them. But for some people, it was cool. Now, people got to realize, again, those imaginary borders, there was already people in Indian territory already. Okay? A lot of those people got moved, so they were entitled to land as well. They were entitled to a lot of land as well. You also got your state Indians and you got your Indian territory Indians. got Oklahoma State, and you got Indian Territory. Well, I ain't gonna hold y'all too much longer. I gotta go take care of a couple things. Get next to a few people. Other than that, it was always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure being here. Y'all gonna see my face a whole lot. Y'all gonna see my face a whole lot. Um, Things are looking up. I'm not as busy as I used to be. Well, I am, but I got more time to drop some information that I've been wanting to do for a long time and kind of revisiting, especially when something presents itself so spicy and zesty. I'm just telling you guys, stay on top of those fake black Indians, stay on top of those fake white Indians. They are running a whole game, a whole number, and their jig is going to be up. And especially if they out there trifling and trumpling on some shit that belong to me and mine or you and yours, I'm gonna have a problem, and you know I'm gonna call the niggas out. I don't care how they feel about it. You can count on me. If I scratch the lie and find the thief, I'm gonna point your sucker ass out. And I take it personal because it's like stealing from my kids, and nobody gets to do that. I'm still from nobody else's kids. Anybody gonna take from mine? You can take my mama purse. Mm-mm. Nope, nope, It's not gonna work. But other than that, what y'all got going on? I see it. Damn, there's a lot of comments. What's going on down here? What's going on down there? I definitely have Terry's. I don't have Tucker's. I did see a Tucker, but I got Ruckers. I got Ruckers and Terry's. No Tuckers though, not that I know of. Unless it was an error. I think I probably seen one or two, but I don't even know what line that's in. It's not very prevalent. I have lots of Terry's in my family. Absolutely. Lots of Terry's. Lots of Terry's and Ruckers. So got a lot of Ruckers. I just found. I got through them through some collateral lines and stuff like that. See, what you do is you make sure that you try and find the name or the maiden name, so that way you never lose her identity. A lot of ways to tell if they have heritage. There was a little naming system that the American Indians did, especially in Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee. They would have the middle names. Now, the Catholic Church kind of perpetuated or made it to where people would have middle names, right? Like Mary Frances Jones, and that kind of came with that particular kind of territory and assimilation. But what happens is a lot of the men would have as a middle name, and even the women, if they were married, they would have their maiden name would be their middle name initial. Maybe her name was Margaret George, but you see M.G. Wilson. Your grandpa's name is Wilson, but Margaret's middle name, she didn't have one. Her middle name, it's really Margaret George. That's her father's surname. That's her surname, her family name, her maiden name, or nay, right? So the men, you see Robert Anderson Jones. Okay, so this Anderson woman married a Jones male. The son now carries the Anderson to represent the mother. So now he's got both. That is a very good way to tell. That is something that the Indian did. The Eastern Woodland Indians. That is definitely something that they did. I don't know how they did it in Boise, Idaho, or Santa Monica, but in Virginia, they used the mother's last name would also often be incorporated in the male's name, the son's name, so they wouldn't get lost in the sauce. So essentially, like when you're building a tree, you should try and keep the woman's last name. You don't have to, she's married to your grandfather. You don't have to add the married name. You know that already. Who was she before that? This way you never lose identity of who she was before. And it makes it easy when you're following that side of the family, because she's still going to have her own sides of the family that are unique and different than, let's say the paternal line. So you always want to keep the female's maiden name. And definitely in those areas, there's a lot you'll be able to tell about who the kid was and who they was related to. Who they was related to. It was all clicked up. They kind of stayed that way until other things changes. Technological changes, industrial changes, economical changes, the political climate changes. People got into arguments. These people got into disagreements. Have you and what we're creating spaces to where people that know that we got work to do want to work with people that know that we got work to do. And that's what this no grandma killers tour is about. We're finally you're going to be able to be around people that want the same things you want, desire the same things you desire, they hate the same things you hate. We finally got our own little unique squad. We got our own unique squad, and this is enough politically for us to create a body that's going to scream real loud. Going to scream real loud. You watch what I'm telling you. We just got to gain the right momentum and the right amount of people that have their ancestry, got their resources, got their story, and we put our little ones and coins together. It's nothing nobody can do. Now we're going to have a seat just like everybody else going to have a seat. And while we having our seat next to everybody, it's time to speak. Microphone check 1 2. When it's time to speak, the whole world's gonna hear what we're talking about. Everybody gonna dance to this song. Everybody gonna dance to this song. I ain't gonna hold y'all too much. I love y'all beautiful people. Y'all be real good. We'll be back soon. Buy your tickets, nograndmakillers.com, beloved, at gmail.com. Hit us up. All of the vendors, we're going to go over that and be responding to the last of the emails. You'll definitely hear from us within the next 24 to 48 hours. And also, oh, you're welcome. Yay. Love you, darling. Also, vendors, I need you guys to tell me how much space you're going to need. If you need to be by a light source or if you need an electricity source or something like that, I need to know the specs. Everybody that's bringing children, certainly I need to know. I want to know how many children there are. I don't want to have something for 4. That's not cool. Don't have me looking bad with the babies. I need a head count on the little ones that's going to be there. All right. I think that's about it for now. And you know me, if I got something else to say, I'll be back. I'll leave and then I'll come back again, right? Smokey say. But other than that, it's smoke 30. That's about time I'm going to do. I've been up since y'all know I'll be up since 4 in the morning, so my day ends real early, real early. But everything is good. I'm gonna go take care of a couple things. We go check on my old ladies, my mom and my auntie, and them, see what they doing. Make sure everything healthy with them. I got to do a roll call on my children. Make sure everything healthy with them and my siblings. And then I'm probably just going to finish reading and taking care of a couple things I put down and get up here and talk shit with y'all about. But we're going to keep beating back at this document. I'll be back with more of this. I got some other little spicy details. Plus, I want to talk about how the culture, I want to talk about the culture vultures and how, they steal our shit, take it back for us. But you got to hear some of these stories where they're talking about our people in the backwoods partying and they got the juke joints and the Indians playing that motherfucking music too loud. Oh, it's hilarious. I thought it was just so fucking hilarious. It's dope. And it's so our people, and it's okay. You can embrace that shit now. They felt so important that it was enough to cover up. It's enough to embrace and fucking show out in front of everybody with it. All right, so I'll catch up with y'all beautiful ones later. Chapisa la chique.